Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap execs about recent important news with their companies. With us today, I'm happy to have him back again, Bernard Tourion, Chairman and CEO of HPQ Silicon Resources, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ. For those of you who are new to the show, HPQ is almost anything but a resources company because they're planning to become a vertically integrated solar-grade silicon metal producer with the goal of manufacturing solar cells. That sounds like a big talk, but more than just lip service. They've recently secured $5.2 million in funding from both the Quebec government and one of their strategic partners. They've got a world-class tech team with PyroGenesis Canada, which is a global leader in plasma torch technology, and Apollon Solar, one of the world's leader in renewable energies. If they achieve their goals, their process will reduce capital costs and operating costs by significant amounts and provide them with a big competitive advantage in the marketplace. Here to talk about the company's latest press release, Bernard. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, George.
Hey, Bernard. So the press release we're talking about today, it sounds mundane. Most people say, okay, what's the big deal? You've extended an agreement with one of your partners regarding, your technological process to produce, solar-grade silicon metal. But what this press release was chock full of was a massive Q&A, and a lot of it was pretty technical. So I just wanted to kind of add a little flavor, a little layman's to it, if we can. The first question is this: your quote at the beginning, and I'm going to read this as anticipated results from the mid-2019 commissioning of the PureVap pilot plant motivated the extension of this agreement with Apollon. So what are these anticipated results from the 2019 commissioning? What are you looking forward to? What do you guys see?
We feel very comfortable that we're going to be producing 4N with low boron in one step. It's probably not going to be in the first pour, second pour, but we will be producing that, and that's enough. I think I've said it, Peter of Pyro have said it many, many times. Our ultimate goal is try to go as high up as we can go. But as I've been saying, with the advantage of having Apollon on board immediately, is we can, from 4N, we can start to be a massive, force for change in energy transition towards solar power.
Now, because this press release was entirely focused on Apollon, you also, I want to dive a little deeper to them, where you actually say Apollon was the final piece of the puzzle in the creation of this world-class technical team. Now, question: is it possible that going into your pilot plant this summer, you're going to find out that you're going to need more pieces of the puzzle? Or said another way, how confident are you that between yourselves, PyroGenesis, Apollon, you have that final dream team in place?
Okay. Well, I feel very comfortable that we have the dream team in place, in the sense that, as Apollon has clearly stated in the press release, they're one of the few people that have that have expertise in two opposite world that don't really talk, which is the one to make the silicon metal, the solar grade silicon metal, and then one to make the solar cells. And what's going on is there's a lot of evolution done in the technology over the solar cells. Okay. And what that implies is sometimes with the same material that you had 2 years ago, where you could do X, Y, Z in purity, you can now do more because of the way you play with the architecture. So that's a completely other domain of expertise, which, usually manufacturer of solar grade silicon metal, like we are aiming to become one, don't have that expertise. So that allows us immediately to move forward. And that fundamentally de-risks the project significantly. Your follow-up question to that was, what additional step? My answer to that was be more what step will we remove? Okay.
Okay.
As I've stated, and as Peter has stated, Peter still thinks that we can go to higher purity in one step, and I do believe that. But I think as I've stated in the past, we are not a pure R&D company that's going to do R&D until the end of our life. My aim is to have a project or have multiple potential revenue streams developed from the concept of going from quartz to solar grade silicon metal. We've identified multiple different markets that we can attack, but we are focusing more with Apollon on the solar one because it's a big market. And as we've said, the numbers we've been playing with are the worst case scenario. And as we advance, we've basically refined those numbers. Fact is, we feel very comfortable that we will get 4N. And from what we've discovered from, this work, this exchange, my learning on the industry, is that we're in a much better position than we thought. But it will need that I go out and talk more to people involved in energy transition as opposed to people involved in resource.
And I'm glad you said that, because one thing I noticed about the press release was that it had some pretty technical discussion there. In fact, that's why we're doing this beyond the press release, for that very reason, because a lot of people at home will not fully grasp, the implications and importance of what you said. But I thought to myself, this is very technical, and this is beyond just a public company's dissemination of information. It seems to me like you're now almost switching gears, or at least for this press release, switching gears to speak to the solar industry, to the renewable industry and the players in that space. Is that fair to say? Am I reading too much into that?
No, that's exactly what happened. I think some people have seen that we have our interviews, which are very specific to when we issue press release, we have discussion, and people also see I've done other interview. The aim for me is to pivot away from resource company where I'm 1 out of 2,000 saying I have the magical ingredient that's going to save the planet Earth, to we do have it, but we are actually developing the process. So I'm eliminating, I think, one of the biggest risks that resource company have, which is what they call social acceptability. Okay, my technology isn't deposit specific. It isn't
right.
It's very flexible. That's what we've discovered. Okay, I can play with low grade material to make one market. So what we've done is de-risk. One of the expression that Peter uses, of pyrogenesis, is that there's multiple tables. Everything is not centered on one pivot point. I have multiple legs to my table. So I'm not like a resource company where one drill hole can, as somebody said, one drill hole will make you a billionaire and one drill hole can basically make you poor. That's not what we have. Resource plays an important part in it. Without the natural resources, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But instead of us spending the money to delineate a resource, because in any type of industrial mineralization, okay, the values always comes from how you transform it. So if you become dependent on doing a JV with somebody to help you develop, if you design a technology that's going to cost $200, $300 million to put forward, then you're at the expense of the buyer, right? That's the one thing I've been going away. I don't need to have an offtake agreement. We don't need it.
Just be careful, because if you succeed as much as you're planning on, you may have other companies coming to you and saying, hey, can you take our raw material and convert it into high purity? So you may become that gatekeeper.
No, it's been happening on a regular basis. Right now, it's mostly quartz people that come and see me. But
okay, that's news.
If it's not my property, you have to pay me to do the work, and I have to figure out where it fits within what are our big picture. But eventually, one of the information that's been out there from the results is, if we make 4N, it's funny because in the industry, there is I believe now, an erroneous belief that 4N, there's no market for it. First, we've demonstrated that's not true because we've seen market for it. But I understand if you're a company that has $1 billion of sale, small market won't move the needle. but for a company like us,
Sure.
they can significantly the needle. So this is why we're bringing about, this evolution. And the idea with this press release was to start to get people in the solar industry to start at least taking a look at it. Okay. I understand their first reactions, no, it can't be done. That's always the way it is. I understand that there's going to be that point of view, but you have to start approaching them when you're in the timeline to start producing the results, start producing the materials, start producing the solar cells, start showing how much you can do, So,
well, and that's interesting you addressed that, because the GM from Apollon actually said that the pure VAP is totally different from the traditional processes that transform quartz into metallurgical silicon. And I was actually going to ask her, saying, hey, is that a risk? At the end of the day, is being different a risk? Or at the end of the day was, Apple was different, and yeah, people had to catch on to it. But once they did, it changed the industry.
I don't foresee it as a risk, because where we are similar is that we're producing silicon metal. Okay. We're producing silicon metal that has a higher purity than anybody else for the same price. Nobody's done that. Now, what's going to be the implication of this? And this is very technical. Those things I've learned in a few years I've been involved in the industry, is that a standard metallurgic grade plant, only 15% of its throughput, maybe 20%, is pure enough to be used in Siemens process and everything else. So you have to cherry pick the best material to send it there. Then you have to prepare it and everything else.
A lot of waste.
In our case, we don't have to cherry pick. Our material is going to meet immediately the purity symptom. There's another thing which I haven't discussed, but we've had those discussions, is what's the impact that our materials could have on a traditional process like a polysilicon manufacturer? Right. Well, maybe a polysilicon manufacturer that can, in its process, do 6N, okay, will now be able to do 9N with our materials as feedstock. Okay, so that is an additional revenue stream. This is what I'm looking at. I do not.
That's great new information. That's awesome new information.
Well, it's actually it came off of the exchange I had with the guys at Apollon. One of the main reasons why everybody focused on, and that's one of the key points I want people to understand out of this. Okay, one of the main reasons that the polysilicon or solar grade silicon metal prepared the chemical way became the by default processing way of making it to start the solar wave. Okay. One of the things that Jed mentions in the article is it shows the incredible price of electricity. As price of solar grade, as the price of solar grade silicon metal goes down, the price of solar energy goes down, demand goes through the roof. But polysilicon was never the most efficient process to do it. It was designed to make electronic grade material for computers. It was designed for that. It was just adapted, and it made sense because people were willing to pay $100,000 a ton at the beginning. Nobody cared about a $2,000 a ton material that was the metallurgy grade silicon metal. Nobody gave up. Right ass, but we're not there. we're at $10. A spot selling price is below 10. Suddenly, that little piece of shitty material you come in is your biggest. There's energy and there's that material. And nobody has looked at that side of the equation. Nobody. All right? So we're perfectly timed in the transition. There has to be a transition to a different process. How is it going to be? Who's going to be the winner? We don't exactly know. But in the race to do it, starting from quartz, we're the only one in the race.
Bernard, I got to tell you something. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, that's going to take a little bit of time for the market to digest, believe. And that's going to need me to have my Gen 3 operational start doing. This is what's happening in 2019. So it's the right time for me to start approaching people so they can throw tomato at me first. And then after that, come and try to eat my salad I'll make with their tomatoes.
But does having Apollon as part of the Dream Team also significantly help you break through on the marketing side, on the selling side, as opposed to just being HPQ and Pyrogenesis, two companies from Quebec, which is great to me, but to some solar company in the US or in Europe or in Asia, they may say, who the hell are these guys? But you add Apollon Solar onto that, and am I right in assuming that that breaks through the barrier much quicker than if Apollon wasn't on the team?
Well, yeah, because at the end, Apollon is going to help us take a material and make solar cells out of it. Okay. So if they're going to make solar cell out of it, in the solar business, you start to be serious once you start making solar cell. Okay. It's silly to say. And it's that transition. But these guys have done it once in a different type of process. Okay.
Yeah,
so we gain from all that expertise. They have all the network and everything else. I've said it many, many times. I don't think the market understand it, or the market was skeptical about it. But I basically said it's going to cut about 5 to 7 years in our R&D development to go in the solar field, solar business. So it's very, very important. It brings credibility. I'll give you an example. We issue, HPQ Pyro. We issue regular press release on the Pure VAP. And if we get a small engine on, the big Bible, which is PVNet or not PV Buzz, because PV Buzz is Canadian. It's a great one. PV Buzz is a great site in Canada, but there is an international one. Well, I just saw through one of our eagle eye investors that sends me email about articles that somebody retook our question and answer and made an article out of it. Of course, their title has nothing to do with the heck we talked about, but the key point is this: the name of Apollon, the name of HPQ, the name of Pyrogenesis is in there. That's all we want. There's a massive market. There are people walking in the street. There are young millennials that are walking in the street demanding a change in the way energy is produced. And we are part of that change. So we just got to figure a way to reach them and get them to say, hey, guys, it's being done.
Hey, when that time comes, let's face it, social media, that's the way you go. You're going to locate young millennial solar advocates, show them what you got, talk to them online, and away you go. So I was going to say something earlier, Bernard. I got to tell you, this is the most calm and confident, and you've been quite calm and confident in our other interviews, but it seems like you've gone to another level now, and I like that. I'm just reading between the lines, almost as if we're heading towards your pilot plant. This agreement with Apollon, you're feeling really comfortable and really confident about what you guys are doing, and that's fantastic.
What I will say is I've come to realize that through serendipity, our timing is darn good, okay? It's just, and people are not catching on to this, it's just economically impossible, okay, for even the new plants that are built to continue to operate in this environment. When you have an all-in cost of...
They're losing money?
Yeah, they have all-in cost of $14 a kilogram, and they're selling it for what, 9, 10? Maybe they sign, and so they need long-term contract. The problem with a long-term contract is eventually it starts to adjust toward the price of the spot price. Okay, sure. Because the reality is, spot price is just for excess production and balance and everything else. So it's not really the selling price. It's just the spot price. But as contract comes to the end, the buyer, because the guy that makes the sell, he doesn't want to pay the big price. He's going to try to squeeze. So eventually you get into a position where, okay, where am I going to get the next saving? Where am I going to be able to get the material? Who's going to be able to survive to do it for me? So in the next 2-3 years, as we go through Gen 3, and then as we start planning Gen 4, because the beauty with Gen 3 is we can start to officialize more the internal numbers that we have about the profitability. So I feel much more comfortable. I feel very comfortable about the multiple legs that we have to generate revenue stream. Okay. So it's going to become clear as we move forward. And that's literally what happened is it's like everything else. We finished the gold spinoff. It's out of the way. Now the gold company can start working on delivering this thing, which was impossible for us to do. But the same thing for us. Like I can focus on, okay, where are we going with this company and the technology and everything else? And I'm in energy transition. Okay. But I'm not dependent on one deposit. That's the biggest issue with resource company is it's always a Hail Mary pass. And geologists will always tell you before what's it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then they'll explain to you why there's no bread.
Well, I'll end it off with this. what you said about how the next 2-3 years is perfect timing, all that. You know, you would expect that from a CEO of a small cap company. You'd expect that. And I always say third-party validation. And what I loved about this press release, this Q&A, is that you had the GM say, and I'm going to read it here, if there's a conclusion, it is evident that very soon a new low-cost pathway to make SoG, or solar-grade silicon metal, that can produce high-efficiency solar cells will be needed. Pure VAP, being developed by HPQ and Pyrogenesis, is coming to market at the most opportune time.
That's
coming from Apollon, that to reinforce what you're saying should provide everyone with a great deal of confidence that you are definitely on the right path, because they're just not going to put their name to something that's, you know, short-term promotion, promising a Hail Mary. This is Apollon Solar. So I gotta say, Bernard, I see where your confidence is coming from, and this summer is going to be pretty exciting.
I wouldn't limit it to this summer. Okay, I wouldn't.
As a first step, yeah, no, for sure. The next
it's starting. It's gonna move. It's gonna get more and more exciting, and you know, we're gonna keep moving. Right?
Well, I know we're gonna have you back. I think this is like the 20th interview we've done, and I got to tell everybody at home, especially the old guard. They know this. They've been watching this. They're with you all the way. To the new people, knock on wood, but every interview we do, we haven't really taken any steps backward. There have been some stalls and, you know, just some reformulated things, little things, but for the most part, you've been moving this ball forward, and I give you, your HPQ team, and your partners a great deal of credit. Thanks for being here today. And, you know, we're in April right now, so it's not going to be long until we have you back on for the pilot plant. And I'm presuming you probably have some kind of news again in between that, but to have you back. But thanks for being here today, Bernard.
You're welcome.
You've been watching Bernard Tourion, Chairman, CEO of HPQ Silicon. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ. Now, for those of you who need more information, do their due diligence, get to Agoracom, punch in the company's name or stock symbol, get to the profile page. We've got all the information neatly summarized there for you in digestible chunks, understandable layman's terms, so you can wrap your mind around it. Watch the most recent 3 or 4 or 5 interviews with Bernard. I think, given what he said today, you really want to get up to speed. Go ahead, yeah, go ahead, Bernard.
And go to our website. You might notice some change.
That's right. And we'll talk about that next time. But HPQ Silicon's website has made some great changes, and that's thanks to its new media partnership with
PV Buzz.
PV Buzz, who, and you know, I'm critical of collateral information most of the time because most people just don't do it right. But PV Buzz has done a fantastic job there. HPQSilicon.com. Get there and take a look at the information. You see what's coming. Do your due diligence, and we'll see you next time.